Welcome to Python with Andrew, where we look at some of the basics of programming with Python to help you learn and try and tackle some of the more complex projects we'll see later on. This is a short, sharp video on the series of data types in Python, because data is an important part of Python programming. As we see any programming, in fact, we're going to start off with the easiest one, which is looking at numbers, which most of us are very familiar with. So let's jump straight over to the code. And as you can see, I've got nothing in there yet. I'll clear my there. In Python, we talk about numbers. There's effectively three different data types. We're going to talk about two: integer or whole numbers, floating point or decimal numbers, and complex numbers, which have real imaginary part. We're not going to cover that. That's a different topic altogether. So the easiest one to think of, and I'm going to use a print statement to show you, if I have a number like that, it's a simple number, something that we're all familiar with. And if I run that, we should see the number 3. Nothing difficult with that. So that's an integer. It is a whole number, and the most simple form in Python. And we can have the expected operators in Python. 3 plus 4 give us exactly what you'd expect. 3 and then 7. And let me copy and paste that down and change it to 3 times 4. Spaces in there so it's easier to see. And so that's easy. We can do subtraction. Print 3. Well, I'll do 4 minus 3. See, it's going to be 1. So that's easy. So the other very basic ones we'd expect. We could also have 8 divided by 4. Oops, 8 divided by 4. Let me put some spaces there. And you can see that 8 divided by 4 is not an integer, even though it is 2. It's converted it into a decimal number, 2.0, which is a floating point number. So if I now jump over to the floating points, if I have 3.0, that's determined, that is a floating point number. Right? And it's 3.0. That's the major difference between integers and floats. Floating point has decimal points after it. So we have 3.2, 3, 4, 5, and it looks a bit different. So let me clear the screen and run it again, just so we can see 3.2345. That's a floating point. Okay, and I can use any of those operators again with floating points. So I could change this to 3.25. I could change that one to 3.25, 4.25 maybe, and 4.25. And then they're all floating points, and you'd expect a floating point answer to that. I can actually convert from integer to floating point and back and forth, which I'll do in a minute. But let's continue on with, we can have another one here, 3. We want to do 3 to the power of 4, or 3 to the power of 2, 3 squared. We use that terminology, the star. Right, so that's pretty easy. And 2 operators that we have on numbers that you might not be familiar with. So that one here is 3 modulus, right? And 3 modulus 2 is 3 divided by 2, but only keep the whole number. So obviously 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. We only keep the whole number, which is 1. This one is surprisingly not something we use commonly in everyday life, but in programming we use it a lot. And if you have 3 modular. Actually, let's change it to 9 modulus 2, right? And if I want the actual the remainder, I would do that, right? So, well, sorry, I've got it the wrong way around there. 9 modulus 2 means what's the remainder after dividing by 2, which is 1. 9 floor division by 2 is 9 divided by 2. Ignore the decimal points, right? So 9 floor division 2 is just 4, right? Which would be the same as 8 floor division is 2. So there are some quick operators that we have in Python for integers and floating point. None of those should be a surprise. As we work up to more and more complex data structures, we'll see that we have different operators that we can use. Some make sense, some don't make sense, but these ones are quite easy. As I mentioned, we can convert from one to another. So let's go 3.5 and see what that gives us. All right. And 3.5 gives us the integer part, which is, let me close that off and do it again, gives us the integer part, which is just 3. Okay. Equally, if I print float 3, I would get the 3.0, which is a floating point. And we can also use this to convert from a string to an integer. So if I print int 3 as a string, or 33 as a string, then even though it's a string 33, and we'll talk about strings in another video, printing int 33 should give us 33, the number 33. And you'll see this used a lot, especially when we use the input statement, where we get input from users. We get input as strings. Sometimes we need to convert them to numbers. So we'll use this particular function a lot. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about the number data type. Fairly simple, whole numbers, or we have floating point numbers, and we have a number of arithmetic operators and a couple of functions that we can use. And in later videos, we'll look at more complex data types and the operators or functions that they have that we can use with that. Again, thanks for checking in with Python with Andrew. If you like what you see, do subscribe and do share with your friends. Thank you and have a good day.